Welcome to Psychedelic Transformations. I'm Maria. Here, we share the journeys of individuals who have undergone profound transformations through the power of psychedelic experiences. Each story is shared with care, and all identities are changed to protect everyone's privacy. If you'd like to submit your own story, be sure to stick around until the end for details on how to do that. We're so glad you're here. Here is my story. My earliest memories are of Sunday mornings, the scent of incense, the dowdy lace of my dress collar, the neat rows of parishioners shifting uncomfortably on the hard pews as the priest's thunderous voice filled the vaulted ceiling. My Italian Catholic upbringing was rigid in its rituals, but unpredictable in its punishments. I learned fast that grace was something you confessed for, not something you received. My mother and grandmother seemed to move through the world on eggshells, their lives a delicate dance to avoid eruptions. My grandfather's temper, my father's brooding silences. Over whispered kitchen conversations and too sweet coffee, I caught fragments of their secret histories. Affairs endured, pregnancies lost, humiliations carried like unseen stigmata. Even as a child, I noticed the haunted look in their eyes, an exhaustion that no night's sleep ever cured. I swore I'd never be like them. I excelled in school, devoured books about empowerment and autonomy, and imagined an adulthood free from the shadows of inherited suffering. But by my 20s, I was already in step with the family choreography. I drifted into accounting because it was stable, good for a girl, and because my mother cried with pride the day I got my first job offer. The office was a gray cube farm, the kind of place where the lights never changed and the air was always a little too cold. I spent my days tallying other people's debts and my nights nursing cheap wine and a gnawing resentment. I cycled through relationships with men who seemed, at first, so unlike my father, charming, ambitious, attentive, but who, with time, revealed the same twin faces of neglect and contempt. Each breakup felt like a familiar bruise, every new beginning a doomed attempt to escape an invisible current dragging me backward. I tried therapy. I tried yoga and veganism and self-help books. I tried for a while being spiritual but not religious, sprinkling crystals on windowsills and reading horoscopes like they might offer some kind of roadmap. But nothing ever touched the ache at my center, the sense that I was living in a story written long before I was born. I began to suspect that my life was not a series of choices at all, but a tightly wound spiral of repetition, a pattern I could see but not break. The real turning point came the year I turned 38. I was still in the same job, still alone, still waking up in the middle of the night feeling as if I'd swallowed a stone. One rainy April evening, after a particularly brutal fight with my then boyfriend, I walked home in the dark, past the blinking neon of the liquor store, and kept going until the city fell away behind me. I ended up at the edge of a wooded park, staring at the sodden ground until I realized I was crying, loud, ugly sobs that I hadn't let myself feel since childhood. That night, I typed "cycle of trauma" into a search engine and fell down a rabbit hole of forums and articles and memoirs. The next morning, I called in sick and spent the whole day researching alternative therapies, desperate for anything that might loosen the knot inside me. That's how I learned about psilocybin. I'd heard about mushrooms at college parties, but never imagined them as medicine, never pictured them as anything other than a quick way to lose control, which terrified me. But as I read more, I found stories from people like me, perfectionists, people pleasers, daughters of silent suffering. They spoke about insights, about healing, about feeling whole for the first time. For weeks, I obsessed over the idea without telling anyone, consumed by the possibility that I could be the first woman in my family to walk a different path. When I turned to psilocybin at 38, it opened my eyes. I saw that the pain I carried wasn't just mine, it was a legacy of trauma passed down through generations. I realized that the men who had hurt my family and me were also carrying their own inherited wounds, This understanding brought me to a place of compassion and forgiveness. From that point on, my life truly began to transform. I found myself opening up in ways I never expected. I started dating someone new. I discovered a newfound creativity in art, and I became more social and connected with my family and friends. It's like that journey unlocked a whole new chapter of living life more fully. Thank you for listening to my journey. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Psychedelic Transformations. If you enjoyed these stories, please give us a like and hit that subscribe button to stay updated with all our future episodes. And hey, if you have your own psychedelic transformation story that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you. Just send it over to the American Psychedelic Society at gmail.com, and we might feature it in a future video. Visit the American Psychedelic Society website to explore free sharing circles, educational seminars, and more resources. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.